Thank you, Edie and Brad. Now, next up, we have two exciting new filmmaking voices who are forging their own unique careers in their own unique ways. Which, if you think about it, is really the right way to do it, because that way everyone else will have someone to try and emulate later on. So let's drop in on this chat between filmmaker Darious Britt, also known on YouTube as D4Darious, where his immensely popular channel has amassed more than, wait for it, 20 million views. And I suspect he achieved that without even making a cute cat video. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And Christopher Nataanii Cegielski, writer, director, and member of the Navajo Nation, whose films have been seen at such prestigious film festivals as the Berlin International Film Festival and South by Southwest, and whose commercial clients include Google and YouTube. So, Darious and Christopher, let's roll it.
So, Darious Britt, Chris Cegielski. We actually went to U of A way back in the day. I guess the most organic place to start is how we got started. How did you get started in film?
I think I got really into film just kind of from writing, wanting to write, wanting to be a writer, wanting to be mostly a storyteller. And I remember finding that U of A had a film program, and I kind of just like walked in there and I saw there is, billboards that they little had, and there's people directing movies. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, that's the BFA. And they're like, okay. I was like, I want to do that. And they're like, okay, well, you got to get into school first. And I was like, all right. So then I finally got into the school and, made the short, and just kept making shorts in there and kept working and kept working and kept working. I never really thought of it as an actual real career that I could do until I got into college and I started seeing that U of A had a film program. And then when I started looking more into it, they had a BFA program, and that's when you actually can direct. And that's what really kind of like was like, oh, I maybe actually be able to give this like a real shot. Nice. How about yourself?
For the first 23 years of my life, I wanted to be a graphic designer, realized I didn't have the memory for it. After I got out of the military and realized I still want to tell stories, but I have to find a new medium. Film was that medium. So then I went to the U of A, got on my first film set, and fell in love with the artifice of it. And I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. Got to the BFA, worked on over 40 or 50 short films, mostly helping others out. I think while I was there, I shot maybe 9, if you want to include like the experimental stuff we had to do and the learning things and all that. Mm-hmm. After the U of A, I shot my first feature film like a month after film school, did what you're not supposed to do, charge all your credit cards up, take loans out, basically go into debt to make a film. I did it. And fast forward, started a YouTube channel shortly after finishing that film, hit the festival circuit. And then that film won a ton of awards, got 9 tellies. And also I did another doc about that film, which was another 1.5-hour long film called Making Unsound. So the first one was Unsound, semi-autobiographical about how I came to take care of my mother with schizophrenia. And then the other documentary called Making Unsound was about the making of that first movie, Unsound. And I released both of those movies within a week of each other at the same time because the Unsound movie took 7 years to do. So took a crap ton of time. But that's kind of like the supremely abridged version to where we are now. And on YouTube, almost at 400,000 subscribers, somewhere around there. But yeah, it's the continuous kind of learning and doing as you go. And so for you, what has your kind of experience been post film school?
Awesome experience so far. I think I would say I was pretty lucky. In film school, I made my first, like I would consider real short, like first real project called Bloodlines. And through there, I was able to, get some notification through mostly indigenous film festivals. So for those who don't know, like I'm also Navajo. I make a lot of my films are based on my cultural heritage or contain some sort of Native American actors with diversity. Imaginative was unknown to me at the time, but it has become, the biggest indigenous film festival basically in the world. And it's in Toronto, Canada. And when I went there for the first time, my first experience ever, I just tried to do as much networking as I possibly could. Go to as many parties, go to as many mixers, talk to as many people, tell them about my movie, probably almost to like an obnoxious amount, Just like, hey, this is my movie. How's it going? And luckily it paid off because, I met some people from Sundance. I met some people from the Berlin International Film Festival. And a very quick way, it was like all of a sudden I was in the Sundance Native Lab. Basically, fortunately, got accepted into this program called the CDDP, which is stands for the Commercial Directors Diversity Program. And for those who don't know, a lot of the commercial production companies work under umbrella of AICP, which is kind of like the overseer of all these commercial production companies. And they were actually with the DGA and AICP, they were doing the program. So as far as commercial work goes, it was like a great program to be in. I didn't know very much about actual like the ins and outs of the business aspect of commercial and, you know, the treatments and the bidding process and how to work with clients on set, how to take calls. And I just recently did that last year. And that's really helped me with my commercial work and my commercial opportunities. I just finished writing another feature, and it was comparing to the first one that I was talking about recently. It was one that I really, really wanted to do. And it was almost something that was like, you need to do this now. The project was telling me to write it, as opposed to me trying to sit down and like,
force it.
How do I do it? You know, and it's like you're reading it and you're like trying to convince yourself that it's good. You know what I mean? You're like, I think I like it. I think so. But this one,
I kind of think maybe it's
yeah,
good.
I could kind of see it as a movie, but this one was definitely like, I love what I'm doing. It's really helping me through, you know, I'm sure you had a similar experience, but like if the project is that strong and it's that powerful, it's going to tell you to write it rather than you trying to force your way into it. And it's like, once that starts happening, you know, you're starting to like actually really work on something.
I think that's a good segue into voice and how to find your voice and how imperative that is. Yeah, let's talk about voice next. I feel like, you know, no matter where you are in your filmmaking journey, you're going to come up against that. What do I have to say and why do I have to say it and why should anybody care question, or barrage of questions rather. Although voice is important, there's a little too much emphasis placed on it when you're starting out. For me, how I found my voice, I actually think that it's changed over the years, and the stories that I thought that I wanted to tell has kind of changed. When I started film school, all the types of films I thought I wanted to make were like Star Wars-esque type, big, epic scale, large budget. I want to be the next Black Panther director and all that. I mean, that came out later. Obviously, I was out of film school then. But those things would be nice, and I wouldn't turn them down. However, knowing more about how things work, I found that I enjoy being able to write something and shoot it and not have to look for money and not have to look for crew sometimes. I enjoy being able to greenlight my own stuff. I enjoy telling really simple stories, just well told though. Part of the reason why I've maneuvered in that direction is because my first 2 features took so long to make. You know, I did the fundraising thing. I spent a lot of money. I did the festival circuit. We had distribution deals we looked at. The marketing, I did all the marketing. I wore way more hats than I should have for my first feature, but I mean, that kind of comes with the territory. You just got to make it happen. But I think because that project, which was kind of 2 projects in one, took so much out of me for the first like 7 years of my, you know, film career, having that experience of being so invested into a mammoth project like that, I think I am now in the rebound period where it's like, I don't want any projects that are going to take another 3, 4, 5 years out of my life. Like, I just want to get in, get out, learn some hard lessons, and get nasty good fast. I just want to make a lot of work, and I want to do it fast, and I don't want to have to look for money. And I think that's part of how I settled into where my real voice was. Not to say I want to shoot shorts forever. I do want to make features, but I want to make them on my own terms without having to do the rat race. And so that informs the type of films that I make.
And I think what you're kind of brushing upon is, in order to find your own voice, not only do you just need to learn how to make movies, you just need to learn how to tell stories. You need to learn what kind of options and resources there are out there. And figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at, but figure out what you like and you don't like. But also what you're saying is like, just to have that creative freedom to explore.
Sometimes the process of what you're doing is as much a part of your voice as what you're shooting, I find, because like the whole mumblecore movement thing, that evolved out of a whole bunch of filmmakers who are like, we want to make films, but we don't have money. And well, how do we make the types of films we want to make? Well, I guess we're just using zoom lenses and not lighting things because we don't have those resources, you know, and it turned out to be a part of their voice. Now, of course, they evolved as more resources and things came along and their careers went, but at the starting phase, that became a part of their voice, you know, mumblecore, because they were talkie films. Well, they didn't have money for car chases, so of course they were talkie films.
I also think too, I was talking a couple years ago with Dehan. I don't know if you remember Dehan from my class, but we were talking about voice as well. And he brought up a really good point, which was like, I think we were talking about a different movie idea. And he's like, you should make that movie now because that's how you feel now. And if you wait too long, that's not how you're going to feel anymore. And I think that's like a lot about voice because, you know, the films that we would have made when we were 20 years old are going to be, we're not even thinking about those kind of films anymore. You know, like you think about Richard Linklater and doing like Dazed and Confused, like that's his voice because that's what he did at that time. And that's where he was at in his life. And a voice is always something that's going to change and it's going to move and it's going to become different. And, you know, I think when I was younger, like in film school, I put too much importance on like what I wanted my voice to be rather than thinking about what my voice is, you know,
I know.
You know, like, oh, I want to be like PTA and do, you know, There Will Be Blood. It's like, but you're a 21-year-old kid who's, you know, learning how to make movies. So just do what you know. And what learning how to tell stories and learning how to make films is going to do is going to allow you to get those things out.
Let's do like a quick fire round for the peeps watching. We'll just say, you know, what are 3 tips you would give for a filmmaker who is at that film school stage and, you know, they're thinking about the whole voice thing? 3 tips for finding your voice. Could be any 3. And then you'll go and then I'll spit them out.
I think number 1 is kind of what you said, tell simple stories really well. That was the foundation for everything that I do. Everything I do is I try to make it as simple as possible, but use all the tools at your grasp for almost every shot. And how can I tell this the best way possible? Because that's what people are really going to notice you for. And that's honestly when you're going to really find your voice, because you're going to find out all the nuances about people that you love. Because that's why we tell stories, is because we want to replicate stories of people, you know? I think 2, as far as film school goes, it's okay that you don't know everything. You know, when I was in college, I think I wanted to know everything. I think I thought I knew everything. You know, I think that if someone told me I was doing something wrong, I'd almost be a little offended. Like, oh, what do you think? You think you know more than me? Well, maybe they do. And maybe they've done it before. And you know what? Maybe you should listen to them and maybe you should see how they've done it or who's doing this way, who's doing it that way, and try to replicate that or take what they have as a foundation and kind of build upon it. And I think the third one we've kind of talked about a little bit is, you know, you have your whole life ahead of you as a filmmaker. You have, you know, if you're in college right now, you're probably 21, 22, maybe about to graduate. You're 22 years old. That's extremely, extremely young as far as the age of a filmmaker is, you know, and don't let this fabricated timeline in your head pressure you into making decisions or putting you in a place that you can't be receptive to the world and the stories that are around you.
Those are good sticking points. I don't really know how to I don't know how to come behind that one. I would say for the top 3, I would say for a filmmaker starting out, ways to find your voice. So the first one for me would be learning the fundamentals of story. For me is huge because a story is very basic, and sometimes when we're starting out, we think that a story is not worth telling unless it's this big existential question or the world's going to blow up or whatever. But it doesn't have to be all of that to be engaging or entertaining. All you really need is a character with a goal and a conflict. That's all you really need.
Totally.
You know? And if you do that well, people aren't going to miss what's not there. You know, like if you tell a simple story with the fundamentals there really, really well, people will rock with it. You know, you can tell a story about 2 people, a couple at a, you know, breakfast nook having coffee and one or the other takes the last of the creamer. Like, it sounds dumb, but I have seen short films that really work that are about stories I would have never in a million years thought you could pull something out of. But when you look at it, the fundamentals are there. It's the fundamentals, you know. And by taking the time to hammer down on that, educating yourself basically on screenwriting and storytelling and studying other short films for now, because before you can get to all the features, you got to go through the land of the shorts first to really cut your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really hunker down and put your feelers out there and watch other work and really dissect, like, okay, why does this work? Okay, we have a character, they have a goal. What's the conflict? And the conflict needs to be something tangible too. It can't be like some mental, it needs to be like something we can point a camera at. If you can get that down, it opens you up to a whole world of possibilities for telling stories, even with limited resources.
Sorry, I just wanted to touch a point. That's really, really smart to simplify the stories, two people talking, right? I think the biggest thing to see a new filmmaker is that they're trying to answer the biggest existential question of their lives in 5 to 10 minutes, where you're just not going to have the time. You're just not,
Questions and stories like that need time to breathe for people to really connect with it. And you're not going to do that in 5. No. Strategically study other films. I think it's easy to get lulled into studying the films of our youth, the films that inspired us, like, great, Jurassic Park and Star Wars, or, whatever the films of the youth are now. Those were ours. But it's easy to get lulled into spending all of your time studying work like that. But it's at a level that you're not at right now, currently.
Mm-hmm.
And you can learn a lot, definitely, but it's not going to help you get from point A to point B right now. What's going to help you is studying films that have been shot for budgets similar to yours, studying short films that have been shot for zero, next to nothing, where they had 2 pennies to rub together. That's what's going to help you right now. You'll find there's lots of filmmakers who they want to make film and they spend all their time watching tutorials and how to do this and how to do that and behind the scenes on all these big epic films with budgets we don't have. But they spend no time studying films by their peers at their level where they are. Well, how are you going to get the ideas? How are you going to find the things to steal and borrow? And, oh, this worked. Oh, let me try that. And he did that for how much? Oh, okay, how are you going to get those ideas if you're not looking for them? If you're not out there looking, that's what's going to help you get from where you are to the next spot. And then from there, once you start getting the connections and all that, then you can start going a scale above that and studying films that you could possibly acquire the resources to make. So you're not thinking of Blade Runner 2049 and Jurassic Park while you're out shooting a no budget film. You know what I mean? Like those aren't going to help you. But if you study films at your level, you'll get so much further, so much faster. And that's something I wish I had done sooner, is to
me too.
Looking high in the sky and look where you are first, because there's so much great work where you are, and really borrow from that first. I think the last point to finding your voice, and then we'll hit the next topic, is for me, finessing the learning curve. And by that, I mean finding ways to learn more quickly. Watching other films by your peers is one way to finesse the learning curve, because you're learning actionable techniques that you can use right now. 2 is always be looking for how to scale up your skill set. If you rest your head to bed at night and you can't think of what you learned that day that's going to help you get where you're going in terms of film, that day's a failure. Like, your metric for success every day should be, what did I learn today to help me become a better filmmaker or a better screenwriter? Every day you have to show up, because as you know, man, like, time happens, things happen, life happens, and you could get so busy, and then you turn around and you're like, when's the last time I even made a film? Or when's the last time I wrote something? Or when's the last time I learned something new about my craft? You can kind of get stuck in a holding pattern where you're just kind of surviving, whether it's working a job or whatever you got to do while you're starting out, but you're not thriving and you're not learning and you're not growing. And, 1 week turns into 2, turns into a month, turns into 6 months. And then before you know it, you're rusty. You have to keep showing up and finessing that learning curve. And doing small projects too is another way to really finesse that curve. Don't, launch off into this 6-month thing, or a year-long project that you could barely wrap your arms around. It's better to do 10 small projects that you can easily execute. Some stuff I've shot was just in a weekend. One of the shorts I released a couple of years ago that has a crap ton of views on YouTube, we shot it in a week. And I only had a week to shoot it. So it wasn't like I had a lot of choices, but I learn more faster, I notice, when I do smaller projects. And then when you get to those big projects, you're better for it. So that's another way to finesse that learning curve, is to learn more faster. And coincidentally, the more you know about the technical side of what you're doing, the more it frees you up on the creative side. And then you can kind of find the things that excite you more as a filmmaker.
There's so many people out there who say they want to be filmmakers. They say they want to be directors. They say they want to be writers, but all they're going to do is talk about writing, you know? Don't be a person that's constantly talking about writing. Be someone who's constantly writing.
Yeah.
You got to show up every single day for, you know, at least an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. You know, you read about a lot of these older writers who were working, you know, in steel plants all day and would come home and, you know, at 7 o'clock at night, and they would stay up till 3 a.m. writing.
Also, too, to piggyback off that point, everything takes longer than you would think. Literally, everything takes longer than you would think. So it's imperative that you show up every day because, for instance, learning about sound or learning about directing or learning about acting, knowing that even if you don't know, it's going to take longer than you think to achieve the skill level that you want to achieve. If you're not showing up every day, it's going to take 10 times longer than the worst case scenario. It's going to take even longer than that because everything takes longer than you think. So it makes it that much more important to make every single day count. Like if you're writing a script, touch that script every day, write every day, you know, even if it's 10 minutes. How has the festival experience helped, I guess, your career?
I think the film festival experience was extremely helpful for me. I've heard a lot of people say this business is about building and cultivating relationships, and it really is.
It's I liken it to it's almost like the higher up you get, the smaller the world gets.
Totally.
Like there's only so many movers and shakers. There's only so many producers that can actually produce and make things happen. There's a lot of people trying to do that thing, but there are only so many who are either actively doing it or have done it long enough to sustainably continually do it, you know, like have a track record. And that's something I've noticed for sure. And it feels like everybody knows everybody. So the world gets a lot smaller the higher up you get. I would say for my fest experience, the biggest takeaway for me, and I'll just frame it in terms of, you know, someone going on festival circuit just to save time. The biggest takeaway for me was, one, the importance of being a nice human to everybody. And two, you really do have to pitch yourself, as you say. You really do have to be open to talking. You can't be a wallflower out there because that is your time to make those connections. Even if you don't have a project coming up right away, talk to them about what they've got coming up. Like, just form a connection from human to human. It doesn't have to be strictly business. It can be just, hey, this is what I'm into. This is what you're into. Let's talk. You know, what do you know? Let's connect. Let's grab coffee. You know, I don't have anything to pitch you right now, but that's okay. Let's just connect because, you know, aside from working together, a lot of the people that I've met on the fest, I've just become genuine friends with. Like, whether we have anything going or not, we can just call up and be like, hey, what you got going on? And again, looking for agents or managers. Hey, I'm looking for a manager. Do you know anybody? Like those types of things are a part of the equation as well. Not just like making movies or finding somebody who's going to put money in your pocket.
Totally. Like, you see a movie that you love, go find that director and be like, yo, I fucking loved your movie. Like, how did you do that? They're going to be like just as amped as you are and talk to you about that. And it's a really good point. It's about, you know, asking for advice. You know, a lot of people out there know a lot more than I do. And what am I going to do? I'm going to ask them about it because it's stuff I want to learn, and it's stuff that they've done, and I'm excited about, you know, their achievements as well. And like, I hope to learn from them.
And I would say go to festivals even if you don't have a film. Like Phoenix Film Festival, great festival. You can meet a lot of people there. Sometimes I feel that people get stuck in this mindset. If you're not at Sundance or you're not at one of these big festivals, then there's no industry there. There is, you know, even if it's peripheral, there are people there who know people, but they're not wearing stickers on their forehead. You know what I mean? You know, it's like you have to just put yourself out there and meet people. And it is very much worth going. And also, it's worth going just to study other filmmakers and learn and meet them. You know, like, I think it is a resource, even though times are changing and you can do a lot online, blah, blah, blah. But I still go to a lot of fests. I mean, I judge at a number of them now, but I'm still a part of that world. You know, even if you're in the online space, you're still going to get roped into the festival circuit in some way or another. And also meeting programmers too. I think that gets overlooked. Like when you go to
meeting programmers is huge.
Yeah,
huge.
Talk to the festival staff. Like try and meet the programmers, because lots of programmers program at other festivals. So for those watching, if you're graduating film school, I guess what's one big takeaway that they should walk away with if they remember nothing else about this conversation, in your opinion?
I guess it'd be kind of about what we were just talking about, you know, just be a good person, you know, be a good person, be nice, listen, you know, it's a business about cultivating relationships, and you need to cultivate those relationships, cultivate those friends. And, you know, I also would say, we talked a lot about, you know, working on film, make sure that you're working on your techniques and everything like that. But don't forget to live as well. You know, that's how we make our movies. That's how we get our material, is to, you know, live life to its fullest if we can.
And I would say the biggest takeaway, if you remember nothing else from this conversation, remember finesse the learning curve to me, because none of that other stuff is possible until you do the work and you show up every day and make it count. I've personally seen like small tweaks make big peaks. Like it's the little things that make the biggest difference. It's not the big ones, it's the small ones. You know, if you get up an hour earlier every day to learn about an aspect of filmmaking that you're not quite as hip to, if you do that every single day, in 30 days, that's 30 hours of education. Like schooling doesn't stop after film school. Got to finesse that learning curve. Show up every day. That would be my biggest takeaway for the listeners, if they're still here. And yeah, this will wrap it out there. Thank you all for watching.
Thanks, guys.